YouTube channel, Connect with Steph. Today's video is going to be covering 10 things that I took into consideration when choosing a nursery for my little one. So my little one is 2 years old and she started going to nursery when she was 11 months old. So the first consideration was location. Did I want the nursery to be close to where I live, or did I want the nursery to be close to where I work? So where I worked at the time was a 25 to 30 minute commute. As far as commutes go, 25 to 30 minutes is not actually that long, but I needed to take into consideration whether my daughter would be okay with that, because at the time she generally didn't like being in the car seat and it was a little bit traumatic for her. So that was one of the things I had to take into considerations. And then I thought, oh, shall I look at one closer to home, so then I could drop her off before I commute to work, and then when I'm leaving work pick her up on the way back. So in total I looked at 3 nurseries, so 2 close to where I live and one where one that was actually located on my work's premises. The second consideration was the environment. So when I was looking at all of these 3 different nurseries, one of the things that I was looking for was the nursery clean? Did they follow good hygiene practices? What did the facilities look like? What did the toys look like? Did they have a suitable outdoor space that that my child could play in? What was the food like? Was there a variety of food? Did they take into considerations fussy eaters? Because at the time when she went, she was a very fussy eater, so I was concerned that she may not eat when she was there. So those are kind of, in terms of the environment, the things that you need to take into consideration. So the third recommendation is, what are the staff like? When you go and do your visits, do they make your child feel welcome? Do they make you feel welcome? And it's really important that if they do seem nice, that actually you don't just go the once, that you go there a few times at maybe different days, different times, so that you get to meet more than one of the staff, just to get a feel for, is this what they're actually like, or is this just a show that they're putting on because it's a visit? So I made sure that I went a few times. And I also, if you can, take your child with you so that you can see how they interact directly with your child, because that will be really useful. So the fourth consideration is to get reviews from other parents. This is a really important one. So if you can get direct reviews from the parents, that would be fantastic, or if not, alternative, look at online reviews, because the parents are going to be realistic and give you, if they're sending their child there, they're sending their child there for a reason, and they're going to be able to give you a realistic view of why they think that nursery is a good nursery. But you do have to take into consideration that what's good for one child is not necessarily good for another. So take it on board, but you also then need to kind of take it into consideration based on the needs and wants of your child, and the needs and wants of yourself as a parent of that child, because all children are different, and ultimately, like I said, what works for one may not work for another. So I was very lucky in regards to one of the nurseries that I was able to speak to a number of the parents, because it was a workplace nursery. So I knew a lot of colleagues that had sent their children to that nursery over the years. So I was able to get a warts and all review of what they thought of the nursery, and overall it was really positive. In regards to the other 2 nurseries, I didn't know anybody that had sent, and these were the 2 nurseries that were closer to my home. I didn't know anybody that had sent their children there. But in regards to one of the nurseries, I went, and about 3 parents, unprompted, actually gave me their honest thoughts about the nurseries. And again, that was really good because it was unprompted. I didn't actually ask. And again, it was all positive feedback, and because they were saying ultimately, if it wasn't good, they wouldn't be sending their child there. So these are the things that I kind of took into consideration. The 5th consideration was to consider the ratio of staff to children. So at the time, my little one, she was 11 months, she was cruising, but she wasn't actually walking properly. So I wanted to make sure that there was enough staff that could give her that support and that she just wouldn't be left on her own trying to fend for herself and having lots of accidents. So, you know, it's really important to look at that ratio. The ratio for the nursery that I did send her to at the time was 1 child per three children. Ideally, I would have liked it to be 1 staff per 2, but when I was asking around, that seemed to be the norm, so I was happy with that. The 6th consideration that I looked at was, and the question that I asked was, what was the staff turnover like? Because I had been given some tips from somebody previously to say that if the staff turnover was high and it was kind of on a regular basis, then obviously there's something wrong there. And if they're not if the staff are leaving on a regular basis, then why are they leaving on that basis? And if they're not treating their staff right, you know, are they going to actually treat your child right? So it's really important to find out what the staff turnover is, because you want to make sure that your child has time to build the relationships with their key workers, and if they're constantly changing, then that's not going to make your child feel comfortable, especially if it's the first time that they're going to be attending a nursery setting. The 7th consideration are what are the daily activities that your child's going to be doing? What activities are they learning activities? Will they be spending time outdoors? And that was really important. I looked at their outdoor space and what they were able to do, because it was one of them was a workplace nursery. It was small. In total, they just had 25 children in total, but you know, for me that felt good, because it was going to be the first time that she was going to a nursery setting. The other 2 nurseries were a lot larger, and they were really good. They had a lot more space, a lot more staff, so it's just really what's going to work for you and what's going to work for your child ultimately. The 8th consideration is, what is the nursery's Ofsted rating? So I've written it down here as to what the definition is of Ofsted, and it is the Office for Standards in Education, Children's Services and Skills. The different ratings are as follows. You've got outstanding, you've got good, you've got requires improvement, and you've got inadequate. So when you're looking at these ratings, hopefully you're not going to pick a nursery that says inadequate. We're really looking for outstanding and good. But what you also need to take into consideration is, again, your child is an individual and will have their own particular and individual needs. So even if a nursery says outstanding, don't just go on that rating. Go to the nursery, find out for yourself, take your child there and make sure that it is right, because I do know that of a few people that have taken their children to nurseries and because it said outstanding, but because their child had particular needs, that nursery couldn't meet those requirements, even though they got an outstanding rating. And the other thing that you need to take into consideration, that even if they've got a rating of outstanding or good, check when that rating was actually given. So I was obviously naive into this, so I didn't know. I thought that I just assumed that Ofsted, that you got reviewed by Ofsted on a regular basis, but apparently if you get an outstanding or if you get a good, you won't be reviewed again for about between 4 to 6 years. So a lot can happen in 4 to 6 years. So if they had an outstanding rating 6 years ago and you're just going now to take your little one there, like I said, a lot could have happened in 6 years and it may not be the same as it was 6 years ago. So it's really important that, yes, the ratings, we want to see outstanding or we want to see good, but you need to think about how long ago was that rating given, and you also need to think about, just because it's outstanding doesn't necessarily mean it's right for your child. You have to go and do your due diligence and make sure that that nursery is suitable for your needs and what you require of a nursery for your child. The 9th consideration, and I know I said that these were not in any particular order, but actually I think that this is potentially a really important one, is that really and truly, and I didn't know this at the time, you should be looking for your nursery way in advance of when you actually need it. I was naive. I just thought, oh, closer to the time that I start looking. And then somebody mentioned actually that a lot of nurseries have long waiting lists. So when I did start looking, I started looking when my little one was 7 months old. But I would recommend that you start looking way in advance of that, and maybe start looking, if you're going to be thinking about using a nursery, to actually start looking from when your child is actually born, so that if there is a long waiting list, that you can put your name down on there. I was very lucky with the 3 different nurseries, and 2 of them there was no waiting list, or 3 of them there was no waiting list, but the workplace nursery, they weren't necessarily able to give me the days that I wanted, which was not ideal. The 10th thing to consider when choosing your child's nursery is to take into consideration, do they offer the government scheme of free childcare at 15 hours and 30 hours. Now please note, again, being naive to the whole nursery cost, etc., when I heard about the government schemes that are offering free hours, 15 hours when your child is 2, and 30 hours when your child turns 3, just a note there, actually this is changing in the very near future, so you will need to look into this at the government website. But at the time, I was thinking, oh yes, that'd be really good for when my child turns 2, that she'll get the 15 hours. But actually what it means is that they get 15 hours funded. It doesn't mean that it's 15 hours free, and it only covers term time, which I didn't understand, and I didn't appreciate that was the case at the time. That's a whole nother video, so I won't go into that in too much detail. But if you're looking for nurseries that offer the funded hours, because not all nurseries offer that, and they don't have to offer that, and the nurseries that do, some of them may have limited places to be able to offer that, or there is a long waiting list, especially with the changes that have recently happened. So it's really important, if that's something that you want to take good use of, then you need to take that into consideration. So these are the 10 things that I took into consideration when choosing a nursery for my little one. So like I said, there's no particular order, and you have to look at what's important to you as a parent, what's important to you and your child, and what's going to suit your child's individual needs. Please note though, if you do go to a nursery setting and it does not feel like the right environment, don't second guess your intuition, just don't take your child there. Simple. Trust your gut, trust your intuition. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not right, and don't send them there. You don't need to have any concrete evidence. If it doesn't feel right, don't send them there. So in the end, out of the 3 nurseries, I did actually decide to send my little one to my workplace nursery, only because I got really good reviews from colleagues, and I actually knew the colleagues, so I knew that they wouldn't be sending their child there to a place if they didn't feel it was going to be suitable. And in terms of one of the benefits of my workplace, they actually I was able to pay the nursery fees directly from my salary, and it was taken out before tax, which was a really good benefit to have. So I was able to do that, and also just being so close to the literally the nursery, I dropped her off, parked my car and walk across to the next building. So that was really good. And as any parent will know, when you first start sending your child to nursery, they're always sick. Oh my gosh, sick. For the first few months, to be honest, probably for the first 12 months, and even to this day, she has been sick a lot. So when I was at that nursery, it was really easy for me. As soon as I saw the name pop up on my phone, I'd be like, all right, I've got to go. So then I'd just literally walk across the car park, go pick her up, and we'd just go home. So the reality was that, you know, it was really easy, and I could also like pop across on my lunch break. There was a situation where she'd fallen over and she'd hurt herself, so I was able to kind of like just quickly go over on my lunch break. And when they had their Easter bonnet parade, again, I was able to attend because it was literally 2-minute walk across the car park, go into the building, watch her Easter bonnet parade. She won, by the way. Watch the Easter bonnet parade and then quickly go back to work. So that is why I chose the workplace nursery, and she went there for a good 10 months, and then I found another job because my job at the time had rejected my flexible working request. That's going to be another video. So I needed to find another job that was more suitable for me, and I was able to find a job working from home. And so then it was no longer worked for me to be sending my child to the workplace nursery once I stopped working there. So then I found a nursery closer to home. But I took all those things into consideration, and the second nursery that I'd looked at originally had spaces, and I'd taken all those things into consideration, and I went back and visited it 10 months later to make sure that I still had the same feelings about the nursery, and that was actually really good. So those are the 10 things. I hope that you found this useful.